Folks, this is a unique time in our history. This is a time that you are going to tell future generations about. This is the day when the old world died and the new world was reborn. A world born anew, if you will. Whether we like it or not, because now there's been an attack on Russian soil, which now brings this war into yet another stage of escalation. And this is one where I don't see it coming back from here. We now have a drone strike, a drone attack on the Kremlin. This is going to have a response. It's going to be one of, I hope I'm wrong, but this has the potential to be one of the worst snowballing effects of the 21st century, because we have too many people that don't want to back down and don't want to lose face. We've got the Ukrainians who are fighting for their own country and their own independence. We've got the Russians who think this is part of their some sort of ancient Russian territorial manifest destiny. And you've got too many people that will not back down. And that's when good stop crossing borders and soldiers start. And now we find ourselves at the next escalation. So I want y'all to remember this. I was kind of mocked a few months ago when I made the call that this is World War III. This is going to escalate to a war in which all the major players are now in this war. And people are now, Ukraine's denying involvement at this point. Doesn't really matter as far as Russia's concerned. It's going to justify the next escalation. And so if that was all it was going to take, looks like we were going to get here one way or the other. I don't like it. But yes, I want you to remember when I said the day this invasion started that this is World War III. And when I said it's going to end with some shape, form, figure of Berlin Wall 2.0, some sort of barrier that wasn't there before, that we're all now going to have to play political hopscotch around for the next few decades. And here we are. Here we are. And it's unfortunate that I find myself being correct in this regard as well. I wish I was not, but here we are. Reuters reports, Russia says Ukraine tried to kill Putin with nighttime drone attack on Kremlin. Oh boy. May 3rd. Russia accused Ukraine on Wednesday of attacking the Kremlin with drones overnight in an attempt to kill President Vladimir Putin, the most serious allegation that Moscow has levied at Kiev in more than 14 months of war. President Volodymyr Zelensky promptly denied any Ukrainian involvement, telling a press conference in Helsinki, quote, "We don't attack Putin or Moscow. We fight on our own territory," end quote. A senior Ukrainian presidential official said the incident instead suggested Moscow was preparing a major, quote, terrorist provocation, end quote. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said Washington had not been able to validate the reported attack and that Russian assertions should be taken with a, quote, very large shaker of salt, end quote. Russia reserved the right to retaliate, Putin's office said, and Russian hardliners demanded swift retribution against Zelensky himself. Quote, 2 uncrewed aerial vehicles were aimed at the Kremlin. As a result of timely actions taken by the military and special services with the use of radar warfare systems, the devices were put out of action, end quote, the presidency said in a statement. Quote, We regard these actions as a planned terrorist act and an attempt on the president's life, carried out on the eve of Victory Day, the May 9 parade, at which the presence of foreign guests is also planned. The Russian side reserves the right to take retaliatory measures where and when it sees fit. End quote. End quote. Video shows explosion over Kremlin. Baza, a Telegram channel with links to Russia's law enforcement agencies, posted a video showing a flying object approaching the dome of the Kremlin Senate building overlooking Red Square, site of next Tuesday's Victory Day parade, and exploding in an intense burst of light just before reaching it. Two similar videos posted on social media showed two objects flying on the same trajectory towards the dome, with the clock on the Kremlin's Spassky Tower reading 2:27 and 2:43. The first seemed to be destroyed with little more than a puff of smoke. The second appeared to leave blazing wreckage on the dome. Reuters checked on the time and location indicated that the video could be authentic, although it was not clear how Ukraine, if it were involved, could seriously have expected to kill Putin with a drone strike on the Kremlin, a huge historic walled citadel at the heart of Moscow. Ukrainian presidential advisor Mikhailo Podolyak, boy, I butchered that, said in comments sent to Reuters, in quote, "In my opinion, it is absolutely obvious that both quote reports about an attack on the Kremlin, end quote, and simultaneously and supposed detention of Ukrainian saboteurs in Crimea clearly indicate the preparation of a large-scale terrorist provocation by Russia in the coming days," end full quote. There's a photo of what has happened, folks. Let's give you a little bit larger view there. Oh no. So the article continues. The powerful speaker of the lower house of Russia's parliament, Volodin, demanded the use of, quote, weapons capable of stopping and destroying the Kiev terrorist regime, end quote. And former President Dmitry Medvedev, now deputy head of Russia's Security Council, said the incident, quote, leaves us no option but to physically eliminate Zelensky and his clique, end quote. Putin, quote, rarely goes to the Kremlin, end quote. But a British expert on Russia, Mark Geliato, said it was unlikely that the alleged attack had targeted Putin, who, quote, notoriously rarely goes to the Kremlin, let alone stays there overnight, end quote. Quote, if we presume it was a Ukrainian attack, end quote, Gelato tweeted, quote, consider it a performative strike, a demonstration of capability and a declaration of intent. Don't think Moscow is safe, end full quote. The presidential administration said fragments of the drone had been scattered on the territory of the Kremlin complex, but there was no casualties or material damage. The RIA news agency said Putin had not been in the Kremlin at the time and was working on Wednesdays at his Novo-Orgyavoyov residence outside Moscow. Victory Day is a major public holiday commemorating the defeat of Nazi Germany in World War II and a chance for Putin to rally Russians behind what he calls his, quote, special military operation, end quote, in Ukraine. Russia marks the occasion with a huge military parade on Red Square for which seating has already been erected. The state news agency TASS said the parade, for which the Kremlin last week announced tighter security, would still go ahead. Before the drone attack was announced, some 10 hours after the event, Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin said the city had introduced an immediate ban on unauthorized drone flights. Russia has accused Ukraine of numerous cross-border attacks since the start of the war, including strikes in December on an airbase deep inside Russian territory that houses strategic bomber planes equipped to carry nuclear weapons. In February, a drone crashed in Kolmona, about 110 kilometers, 70 miles, from the center of Moscow. Ukraine typically declines to claim responsibility for attacks on Russia or Russian annexed Crimea, though Kiev officials have frequently celebrated such attacks with cryptic or mocking remarks. Has there been any updates on the nukes? No, there has not. I will look into that right now, actually. Okay, folks, I found, and this will be added in my overall, I'll addendum this together, but okay. Apparently, where the rumors of the nuclear missiles being moved came from is from Vladimir Osechkin, the founder of Gulagu.net, Gulagu.net, said during his live stream tonight that one of his sources had information that 2 Russian nukes were transported to the airbase and could be used on Ukraine this very night. And he says, I'm going to be going through the translation here, folks. Tonight, there could be missile strikes on administrative buildings in Kiev. A few minutes later, one of our sources connected to the ground forces, I'll name which one it is later. It's the service that is in charge of guarding the so-called products. Products is their code word for the nuclear arsenal. He reported the following: for the first time, nuclear weapons could be used. 2 products are already located at the aforementioned airbase. Products. The details we'll disclose later. It's important to understand that our source from long-range aviation is risking his life. So, yeah, that's according to this Vladimir Oshelkin. And when people are asking, is this a legitimate source or like a false flag? Apparently, he's a human rights activist. He's on Putin's kill list. He's the one who recently exposed some Wagner's war crimes, apparently. This is all according to Twitter. But yeah, that's, it's rumor and innuendo at this point, but take that for what it is. Like Bandit said, if you've ever thought about being the praying type, tonight is the night. It really is. It really is, Bandit.
See if it just smooths itself out.
Back, tell you what I'll do. If I ever get back, I promise to refabricate you. Raging rivers of gold. That's what the brochure advertised. And now we're lost. We gotta take it down. Let you down slow. It's hard to survive. El Dorado. Oh, Lord. Well, let's see how that one went.
Yeah,